Minnesota Twins, they dropped game 2 to Tampa Bay 2-1 despite David Festa's best efforts. We're breaking it all down next on the Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. That's your team every day. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man in the flesh, Sweet Lou Hennesey. Give him a follow on X, at Sweet Lou MN, Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. And Lou, before we jump into all the action from tonight's game, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, game 2 versus Tampa, coming off that 5-4 win thanks to Royce Lewis last night. David Festa on the mound. All in all, pretty rock solid again. 5 innings of work, only 2 earned runs, 7 Ks. Gave them a chance to win, that's for sure. Problem is no run support. That's the common theme with this baseball team lately. Santana got him on the board first, gave him a 1-0 lead with his 19th homer of the year. That was in the second inning, but you ain't going to win a lot of games when you only score 1 run. Even I know that. Had a chance at the end, 2 runners on, no outs. Brooks Lee, Castro, Austin Martin, they go down 1-2-3. Kind of frustrating, super deflating, I know that. Sweet Lou, biggest takeaways, kind of your 8 topics from this one. Then we'll talk about Festa's night a little bit more next.
Sure, kind of a pesky, annoying loss in the grand scheme of things, but at the end of the day, you're looking at some of the pitching performances from the Twins that you have to feel pretty encouraged, especially with someone like David Festa, who's going to be a pretty key member of this pitching staff for the next 3+ weeks as they make the home stretch here for the season. But yeah, like you said, the offense not being able to click on anything. Credit where credit's due. The Tampa Bay Rays always find a way to throw out these guys that maybe weren't the biggest prospects or anything like that, but they find a way to be really successful. And we saw what made them so successful for a big run of years with the performance tonight from guys like Springs and Rasmussen and Uceta. So
we got to dive into David Festa. That's kind of the 8 topic, the only bright spot, right? Trying to find this glass half full here, so to speak. Pretty superb, man. 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, 7 Ks. So that's back-to-back starts with 7 Ks each, 14 Ks in the last 2 starts. Pretty good. Hits that magical 5-inning mark, which, you know, that's kind of always the Mendoza line, the goal for these young pups anyways, with Rocco short leash. And again, 7 strikeouts. He's been wheeling and dealing now these past 2 starts specifically. What did you love the most, I guess, and what was working so well tonight?
Really, everything was working for him, it felt like. He was pumping some good gas there, even later on in his outing. He's a guy who's prone to have short starts. He typically, it's pretty rare that he would throw 100 pitches in a game. And that's just kind of where his arm is at. He's still a pretty young guy and still trying to, I think he just surpassed his innings threshold that he's done in his career. So definitely going to be some growing pains in that area. But I thought he looked awesome tonight. And it's not like the Rays are some top dog in the league or anything like that, but this is an MLB caliber team, and he shoved in an MLB caliber outing today.
Yeah, 90 pitch count today, 90 pitches. That's about, you're right, that's about his max you're going to see from him.
Yeah.
Theobald, Tonkin, and then Castillo were your relievers in a 1-run game. Were you worried about that at all? How much were you starting to sweat a little bit, put on the hot seat? Because they, all in all, I mean, obviously they didn't allow 1 earned run. They did pretty good.
Yeah, no, you'll definitely take this, especially a game when you're coming from behind or trying to come from behind. We were going to see Theobald and Tonkin and Castillo tonight, regardless, just based on the heavy usage of some of the high leverage guys that we've seen over the last week or so, especially the last 2 games. Jax, Duran, Sands, I think, have all pitched over like 80 pitches or something in that time. So they were most likely going to be unavailable or break glass in case of emergency. So it was good to see some of these kind of lower leverage guys kind of duke duke it out a little bit, because there are still playoff roster spots to be had if we're looking into the future here. They're going to need some medium leverage guys, and it's going to be somebody like Tonkin or Thielbar or Castillo, or whoever has the best month going forward, I think is going to earn their keep in the playoff spot here.
Yeah, speaking of the future, David Festa now, again, looks like a bright spot here. Don't want to oversell it too much here, but at his ceiling, right? Like if he hits his, quote unquote peak as a prospect, right? What's that look like, you think? Yeah, a number one ace someday in the MLB, a solid number two, like kind of what we were hoping Joe Ryan would be this year, or what? What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. It's always weird kind of dealing with hypotheticals like that. But David Festa is a legit top 100 pitching prospect. He's shown to have some success in his small sample size at the MLB level. I think his upside, his 90th, 100th percentile, is a playoff caliber starting pitcher. And who knows if he can make it that far. It's going to depend on his development and his health, but he's shown some awesome signs so far, and I think it's all ahead for him.
Again, just gives up the 2 earned, but man, just no run support. It's got to be a grind as a pitcher for this Minnesota Twins team right now. It's got to be a grind going out there, just mentally knowing, all right, probably 4 out of 5 starts, I'm going to have to carry the load to even give my team a chance to win at the end of the night. What's the deal with this offense, do you think? I know we kind of touched on it on the top, but just a little bit more of a deep dive. Like, where do they rank, I guess, in the league as far as like runs scored, and what's been the biggest obstacle, if you will, the past month or so specifically? Is it something specific like runners left on base? Is it swings and misses? What is it? What's going on with this lineup?
I think it's tough to hear this after a game in which they lost by 1 run and only mustered 6 hits, but their offense is still mostly above average when you're looking at most of the leading statistics here. Definitely playoff caliber lineup. You definitely want to see some more star power, that's for sure, and hopefully there's some good news to come there. We can talk about that in a little bit, but they're missing Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, a few of their top guys, their top dogs, so to speak, in this fight. So for them to be able to kind of hold their own without their star caliber players, and Royce Lewis, who is starting to turn things on a little bit, but he had a rough month here. He's coming out of, he doesn't like to admit it, but that was a month-long slump that he was going through. So to finally get him kind of turning around the corner, I should say, and to get Byron Buxton back, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of this week, if all goes well. And then Carlos Correa, who knows? But they need some star power if they want to be one of the true top dog offenses in this league.
No, that makes sense for sure. Good breakdown. You got to help me out here. Michael Hellman, a name we haven't seen before, filling in for Kepler, Margot in right field tonight. Not like a household name or top prospect. So give me the kind of the scouting report or the things I should know about this guy.
Doesn't have too much of a prospect pedigree, so to speak. I think he was a middle round pick, maybe late round pick in 2018. He's been an organizational soldier for 6-7 seasons now, so it's really cool to see him get an opportunity. He's having a pretty good year at AAA too, so it was well deserved. I don't see him making too big of a difference for this big league Twins club necessarily, but it'll be cool to see him get opportunities off the bench. He's got some plus speed. He can play everywhere in the field, so he could have his use for the next few weeks here, or until somebody else is healthy enough to return. I'm glad they got him in a game though, and I'm glad that his family was there to see him get his first hit, even though it was an infield single. I'm sure they were excited.
No, that's pretty cool for sure. You're right. 2018 June amateur draft from Texas A&M in the 11th round by the Twins. Spent the last 3 years at AAA. So yeah, pretty cool to see that for sure. Rocco report time. Game 2 versus Tampa. The Rocco report. It says what?
So I didn't have something super specific about Rocco tonight, but I just wanted to talk about something that we talked about with him on Saturday. I was at the game covering, and that was the kind of disastrous start from Zebby Matthews when he gave up, 9 earned runs in 2 innings. Yeah. Just the worst start of his professional career. In the post-game scrum with Rocco, he was talking about, look, Zebby's going to be fine. He had the utmost confidence in his voice, and that's definitely the approach I want him taking with these young pitchers, especially because Zebby's next start, it's going to be pretty pivotal. It's going to be game 1 against the Kansas City Royals. So you don't want to get into your young pitcher's head and say, yep, time to put the gas on. You had this one terrible start. We're about to axe you and get Louis Varland up here. No, displayed the utmost confidence in his young pitcher, and that's something that kind of goes on. I don't know. Sometimes you don't necessarily track that from a MLB manager as much as some of the on-field statistics or decisions that they make. So it was cool to see that after such a nightmare start from Zebby on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good point. Do you think that is when you look at just the landscape of all the teams in the MLB, that's totally just like a manager by manager kind of just their coaching style? I don't know if you saw it, switching gears, don't want to go too far out in right field, but did you see the Mike Zimmer article that came out just a few days ago? Basically, he was just unloading on all his time here in Minnesota, all these players, throwing a lot of people under the bus. It was actually a great article, but it just reminded me of how different each coach's personality is, not just in football and the NFL, but all sports, really.
Look, I would be shocked if we heard something like that from Rocco in
Right,
however many years
way.
from now. Very different personalities from Mike Zimmer, that's for sure. I'll give you that much. But it's no secret that Rocco is super popular with his players. He does a great job of managing not just the players in the clubhouse, but the people in the clubhouse. And he's got a ton of respect. And I think some of the outrage that maybe you hear on Twins Twitter sometimes, you got to remember that almost none of that is spoken or heard in the clubhouse.
Right.
It's a kind of a different reality, so to speak. So Rocco, very popular with his guys.
Yeah, there's something to be said about this new generation, this wave of player coaches, right? You just didn't hear that term a lot growing up as kids, and now it feels like more than half of the coaches throughout all sports are either a former player or one of these kind of player coaches. Just seems to work better for whatever reason. Plenty more deep dive on this one. Plus, got our nerdy stat of the day. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, their formula for winning championships. Also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, they got it all. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, they got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Okay, The Athletic, latest power rankings. Take a stab. Where do you think the Twins are at?
I'm going to say they are at number 7 right now.
Wow, I wish we lived in a world where the Twins were on number 7 on the latest Athletic Power Rankings. They drop again for the second week in a row, this time from number 10 to number 12. So you got KC. Okay. Yeah, you got KC 1 spot ahead of them. The Astros 3 spots ahead of them at 9. Guardians 5 spots ahead of them at 5. Baltimore 7 spots ahead of them. Yankees at number 3, and then you got Dodgers, Phillies.
Sure,
kind of like it's been all year at 1 and 2. Does that sound about right? Not just the Twins, but KC, Houston, Cleveland, all that. Does that feel about right to you?
I don't know how much stock I would put into that if they have the Royals above the Twins at this point. The Royals have lost like 6 in a row. They lost one of their best hitters in Vinny Pasquantino, who's probably going to be out the rest of the season here. Twins, no doubt, have gone through their lumps, but if you would have told me 10, that's probably about the zone I would have said. So I'm not too outraged, but to have them behind Kansas City is a little curious to me.
Yeah, what's going on? We're going to talk about KC and Cleveland here in segment 3, but just real quick, what's going on with KC right now? Just absolutely tanking right now in a hurry.
Yeah, no, I haven't been able to watch too many of their games, but they're going through something right now, that's for sure. Like I said, it doesn't help that they lost Pasquantino a few days ago. Some bad vibes around there. They've always been kind of a top-heavy lineup with Bobby Witt Jr., one of the premier players in the game, having an incredible year. Yeah. He's up there. Salvador Perez having a great season too. After that, not necessarily superstar caliber guys. So it kind of ride and die with some of those middle of the order guys.
Yeah, smells like maybe their 7th loss in a row tonight. They're down 4-1 in the
Yeesh.
7th to Cleveland. So back to this power rankings for each team. It's got like a quick little blurb. This week, it's biggest September priority. Do you want to guess what they said about the Twins' biggest September priority? Take a guess.
Let's see. Getting healthy, maybe?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, literally verbatim, staying healthy. Basically, what you and I have been preaching right here on this show every night since it feels like the All-Star break. It says, here's the quote, just real quick. The Twins are without a third of their opening day lineup. Correa, Buxton, Margot, and opening day sub, Alex Kirilloff, plus opening day starters, Joe Ryan, Chris Paddock, also on the 60-day IL. So they're certainly capable of making some noise in October, but it's far more likely if they're close to full strength. I mean, pretty obvious, I guess, but is this the thing we're going to be talking about all offseason if they go one and done in the playoffs or just miss the playoffs altogether? Like, is that the A topic, or do you think blaming injuries almost is too easy because nobody in MLB right now, not one team is healthy at this point, at this juncture in the season?
If they were to go one and done in the playoffs, I think that health would be a big talking point for sure.
Okay.
But I also think that just not maybe the front office not creating necessarily an infrastructure to have better backup plans in place, knowing that both of these star players have their injury concerns in the past here. There's plenty of criticism to go around with the front office and kind of the lack of investment in this team and this window of contention, but probably best to cross that bridge when it actually happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. For me, it's okay, you hear a third of their opening day roster is hurt. Okay, well, that's 3 guys, not a huge deal. It's more about who those guys are, right? And the fact that we've been kicking and screaming for the past 3 months. It's Correa, your leader, your captain, arguably your number one guy. At least you're paying him to be the number one guy. And then Buxton, who always adds a little bit of juice when healthy as well, right? That's the bigger story, not just injuries, but who the injuries have happened to really since day one of the season for the Twins.
Yeah, and really their success for the rest of this season and into the playoffs is not just going to be getting Byron and Carlos healthy. It's going to be getting Royce Lewis rolling again. It's going to be Brooks Lee getting his feet warm enough that he can be a contributor in the playoffs. It's making sure that veterans like Carlos Santana is out there still playing at the peak of his performance and stepping up in those big moments that he's done for teams, 5 different teams in the past. So it's going to be about getting everybody rolling and healthy together, which is a pretty big challenge. But if they do have, 4 or 5 of these top end guys with Pablo Lopez pitching how he is, Bailey Ober maybe getting back to the peak that we've seen from him, they're not going to be one and done in the playoffs. Teams like that don't lose in the first round. So it's about getting to that point, I think.
Love it. All right. Nerdy stat of the daytime. You got any crazy stat or fun analytic Twins related? What do you got tonight? Lay it on us.
Yeah, so David Festa has been really successful as of late, and one of the big reasons because of that is his slider. His slider, opponents were 0-19 versus Festa's slider before he gave up a single to Aranda in the 4th inning tonight. That was the 2nd longest streak in baseball. So really good stuff from his slider. I think Festa might be an X factor on the playoff roster as maybe somebody who gets pushed to the bullpen or maybe a piggyback start. Okay. I think that he's going to be somebody you want to keep your eye on.
Love it. Great breakdown. Great nerdy stat per usual from Sweet Lou. Don't go anywhere. We got to preview Game 3 versus Tampa. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, it's just by far the easiest. It's the most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. It's so simple. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season, obviously, still in full swing here. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay. Quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app. Use code all lowercase locked on MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, game 3 tomorrow. Pablo on the mound coming off that just monster start last Friday night, which was just chef's kiss. Scouting report. What's the biggest storylines? Does he match up well versus this Tampa Bay lineup? Or, just what's the things to look for when it comes to game 3 specifically tomorrow?
Yeah, Pablo Lopez, if he looks like he's looked his past few starts, he's good against any lineup. So I'm expecting some fireworks from him tomorrow. We kind of saw this from him last year. Remember, he kind of struggled in late April, May for probably 6 starts or so, and then really turned things back on and propelled himself into the playoffs. We're seeing that this year, too. It's just like that challenging time was maybe just a little bit longer. He had a little bit further room that he had to catch up with. So I love the version that we're seeing from him right now. He was pumping fastballs at 96, 97 in his last start late in the game. So that's something you absolutely love to see from somebody who's supposed to be the ace of the staff and somebody who has pitched like the ace of the staff since late June.
Yeah, 96, 97 on the gun. That's kind of like Sweet Lou territory back in the high school days, right?
Hey, don't sell me short, okay?
That's it. Yeah, that was just in the warm-ups. That was just getting your arm warmed up. Okay. I know we already talked about, you and I specifically, I already just talked about this schedule coming up. 3 with KC, that's right around the corner. 4 with Cleveland, that's in 2 weeks, middle of September. But right now, as we speak, already teased it at the top, those 2 teams are going head-to-head. So as a Twins fan here, what's the play? Like, who am I supposed to be rooting for right now? Like, is this as tough as I'm making it out to be in my head, I guess? Because I'm kind of torn here who to root for. You tell me.
Yeah, it's tough. I think it's going to be a dogfight all the way through. I think I probably feel a little bit more threatened by Cleveland than with Kansas City at this point. But like I said, anything can happen. We're all pretty tight knit and with not much time remaining. If you're rooting for who between Royals facing the Guardians, root for rain, make them do a couple double headers, maybe stress that pitching staff a little bit, especially if it's right before we're going to see them. But it's going to be a dogfight, I think.
Yeah, I guess the fact that you still play both teams one more time makes me feel better about the fact that either way, I can gain some ground on both of them. Doesn't matter which one. So it doesn't really make that much of a difference to me, in my mind anyways, just the way I'm looking at this on paper. Had there only been one more matchup with either, whether it's KC or Cleveland left on the schedule, I think that's probably the team I would want to be winning these games, just because I can know, okay, I can go back. We got them one more time on the schedule. I can face them head to head, and I can do some damage and kind of control my own destiny, so to speak, if that makes sense.
Yep, that makes a ton of sense. It should be noted, too, that Cleveland owns the tiebreaker over the Twins at this point. I think they locked it in already, so even if the Twins sweep, Cleveland still would have a tiebreaker.
Wow.
The Twins have the tiebreaker currently over Kansas City, so that might be something to consider.
That's actually a really good point. Glad you dropped that little nugget on us there. Did you see Dan Hayes' from The Athletic, his article on Trevor Larnach hitting a fan with his home run shot yesterday?
I heard about that, and he smoked that thing. So I'm glad to hear that the fan was okay and that they were able to come on the field, I think, with their parents after the game. Trevor gave him a sign back. Good, classy move on his part, but I do not want to be on any side of that. That sounds like no fun, getting hit with like a 106-mile-an-hour ball.
Yeah, are you kidding me? You see these guys on SportsCenter all the time making the one-handed catch with the baby, with the beer in the hand, and it's like, dude, if you've ever been to a game, right, in person, live, and seen those things are heaters, man. Those have you ever came close to catching like a foul ball or a home run as a fan going to an actual game?
In the press box at Target Field, I swear it's like a magnet or something, and maybe just the level where it's at, for it to come into the press box, the ball needs to be really shot straight back.
Sure.
And you see people are like, oh, how come you didn't reach up and try to catch? I'm like, dude, that was 85 off the bat. I'm not going to try to catch that barehanded if I'm playing catch. Why would I do that when I'm working and like typing with my fingers? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right. The bare hand factor, man, I just can't get over it too. I mean, even those guys who make those 6 spectacular one-handed catches with those things, they got to be feeling it the next day. I promise you that. What's like the worst injury you've seen or remember when it comes to like baseball specifically? Because we always, football season coming up in less than 48 hours. We always talk about hockey stuff, two very brutal contact sports. Baseball, not really known for being a contact sport, obviously, but it's been known to produce a few nasty dust ups. That's for sure. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I want to say it was probably 5, 6 years ago at this point. Josh Naylor of Cleveland, he had a pretty gnarly injury at Target Field, actually,
Ooh.
which he broke his leg in a couple places and was in a ton of pain. I'm not a huge fan of the player, but you don't want to see that from anybody. You don't want to see anybody get hurt like that. Like you said, baseball is not necessarily known as a contact sport, but you still see some gnarly injuries out there from time to time.
Yeah, I think mine was Albert Bell clotheslined. I had to look it up just now. Fernando Vina.
Ooh,
Yeah, Brewers, Fernando Vina at second base back when Bell was probably on the juice. Let's be
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
He was like a 300-pound brick shed house. This
sure.
dude, he clotheslines probably like a $180 soaking wet, trying to break up a double play ball, by the way, from what I remember, anyways. It actually, honestly, it wasn't that bad of an injury. It was just something that I'll never forget and kind of always makes me laugh thinking
Sure,
about that.
sure.
All right, we got to get out of here. Twins drop game 2, 2-1. 2 more left with Tampa. Game 3 tomorrow. Pablo Day on the mound. First pitch for that one. Another 5:50 p.m. start. Huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game right here, breaking it all down. Got to go check out all of Lou's work on X at Sweet Lou MN. Plus, all the work he's always ripping up over at zonecoveragemn.com as well. Anything new as of late? I always like to check in with you guys maybe once a week or so. Anything new as of late you've been working on Twins related?
Yeah, at Zone Coverage over the weekend, I released something about Yohan Duran, and sometimes he gets grouped in with some of the struggling bullpen members, especially after the ugly game he had last week. And I just did kind of a deeper dive at like, look, even if his fastball's down a mile or a mile and a half, he's still absolutely elite, and some of his pitches have been bonkers this year. So I think the ERA doesn't tell the whole story, and I just wanted to give Duran some flowers there. That's the most recent thing I had for Zone Coverage.
Yeah. So tough, man, because when the bar is set so high,
Yeah,
it's just almost like there's only one place to go down at this point. Unless I'm just flawless night in and night out.
right.
People just pick me apart almost a little unfairly, but that's awesome. Can't wait to go check that out. Again, that's up at zonecoveragemn.com. Go like this video, subscribe to the channel, help us get to 8,000 subscribers. That's always much, much appreciated. That's Sweet Lou, Luke Inman on X, at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time, but until then, signing off.